welcome to Savant Obsession. We have a super cool guest today, and I want him to introduce himself to you guys.
What's up, everybody? First of all, thanks for having me. It's an honor. We connected on Facebook, so it's so cool to meet you in person. So I am an independent mortgage broker with Kai Mortgage. Kai Mortgage is actually just a team and a brand I just started, literally the beginning of January. But I started, in the mortgage industry 5 years ago, and this is a team I'm kind of starting to run, and this is kind of all I'm up for. So I'd love to kind of talk about, maybe we can talk about like how I even led there. I can keep talking about introducing myself for like the next 15 minutes. But that's kind of what I do on a day-to-day basis. I'm a believer of Christ. I go to church. We live in Utah, and that's kind of who I am. We do purchase, refinance, everything that has to do with helping the average consumer get their funding. So.
Okay, and I saw you post a pretty cool fact the other day about yourself and your company. About how much did you do last year?
Yeah, so very humbly, we were able to close around 25 million in mortgage volume just last year in a very high interest rate environment where a lot of mortgage brokers or loan officers in general, they were closing like below 5 million. Yeah. Right. So we were able to serve nearly almost, I think, like 65 to 70 families last year just in mortgages.
Okay. And which, if you guys don't know, the reason that's impressive is you're basically in a bear market, right?
Yeah.
For interest. It's a big fear factor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is this your first year of like your own company, or how many years have you guys been around?
So Kai Mortgage, I just started that like literally 11 days ago, January 1st, 2025.
Sick.
That's when I like officially launched it. I started working on the back end, all the compliance, because there's a lot of legal stuff that has to deal with lending. But last year, I was just an independent mortgage broker under another company. I'm kind of starting my own team now with Kai Mortgage. But I was just independent. I was still, still a commissioned solopreneur, doing their own thing. Right, I'm not working at a bank where clients are coming in, where it's really we do our own thing. We try to do our best for the consumers.
Nice. And then before we dive too deep into your past, you started like is it a nonprofit or like a group for the Asian community in Utah, or are you a part of it, or how does that work?
Yeah. So I co-founded it. And we can kind of dive into kind of the reason behind it, because and that group actually was just started last April, maybe March, somewhere around there. But it's called Utah Asian Business Professionals. I kind of co-founded it with 4 other business professionals. And really the goal was to kind of bring, if you're Asian, you're in the community, there's Chinese, Vietnamese, there's Taiwanese, but everyone has their own groups, right? There wasn't really like a group that kind of umbrellaed everyone. In the business world, in the business world, there were, that effectively gave back to the community. And me having like immigrant parents who were Chinese, in fact, Chinese was actually my first language. I didn't know English until I was 9. So I had to learn Chinese. So it's a very integrated part of who I am. So, so I started that thing, and we do like quarterly events to teach and help and give value back to the community.
I love that. Yeah. What's cool is we actually have an Asian barber in our South Jordan location.
Oh, cool.
And I'll have to link him with you so he can try and be a part of some of those events. His name's Ray. He's a cool kid.
Oh, sick. Yeah. I'll absolutely love to meet him. Yeah, we have a Facebook group. We have like 250 people in it right now, and it's all Asian American business professionals.
That's awesome. He'd probably love that. Okay, so speaking on your parents being immigrants and you not learning English properly until you were 9.
Yeah.
So in your childhood, like, was it different growing up with speaking mainly Chinese instead of English? Did you grow up in Utah?
I actually did not.
Okay.
I didn't grow up in Utah at all.
Where did you grow up?
So kind of, I was born in New York City. So I was way different than Utah. But I was born in New York City, in Brooklyn. And at that time, my parents, you know, they kind of just really immigrated to U.S. and they started in New York City because New York City is one of the most diverse cities in the U.S., right? Where you can know one language, and you know your doctor speaks Chinese, your real estate agent speaks Chinese, you know, everyone speaks Chinese. In fact, we're Fujianese. It's like a dialect. So everyone in Brooklyn, there's a certain part where everyone spoke that dialect. You know, so there was like a specific town in Brooklyn that we lived in where it was more than just China. It was even more specific. So I grew up, I was born in New York, but the thing is, I didn't really live with my parents until I was like 9.
Okay.
And let me tell you, the reason that being is when I was born, you know, my parents, they were, you know, just dirt poor, right? Like my dad was a cook at a restaurant and my mom was like a waitress, cashier, right? Getting minimum paycheck, you know, not doing anything. But when I was born, you know, they didn't really have money to take care of me or time. It was 7 days a week, all the time, right? So in fact, when I was born, I lived, you know, we didn't have child support or like these child cares to pay for. You know, we weren't fortunate to have that money to even for me to go there. So I would remember I basically grew up with all my different uncles and aunts growing up.
Okay.
Right? Like I got a couple uncles and I would live here for 6 months. Go to another uncle. Here for 6 months. Go and maybe here for 2 years. And between that time, I actually moved to China.
Okay.
Right. So actually, I lived there for like, you know, so I was in America for like maybe 2 years.
Okay.
And then I instantly moved to China, and that was part of the reason, right? Because we needed someone to kind of take care of me, really. And my grandparents were still in China; they haven't immigrated yet.
Okay.
So I went all the way back, you know, with my grandparents, and then same thing. So I actually went back for like a year, and then came back to the U.S. for like a year and then went back. So that happened like 2 to 3 times. Okay. Just because, you know, my grandparents were getting old. And I wasn't the best kid, you know. I was taking up a lot of their energy. Yeah. You know, so we had to switch places all the time. But I remember growing up in China, like we lived in villages.
Okay, so not in the city.
Not like, yeah, we couldn't afford, you know, to live in the city. Yeah. Right? We were we were growing our own like food, you know, like I remember that, you know.
You would they would have like a farm.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. You walk like 2 minutes, you're like in the forest, you know. You're like in the village, and it was a small village, and you knew kind of your other villagers, you know. You trade stuff, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah.
So that makes me want to ask. Okay. So yeah, do you ever miss that?
So growing up, a lot of people ask me, man, Andy, that must have been like so hard. Like, you know, like I was sleeping on a wooden bed. Mm-hmm. You know, like we barely had like I don't some of the stuff I can't remember clearly, but a lot of the stuff I have now we didn't have then. Okay. You know, it was really just in a village. And a lot of people say, hey, Andy, man, you know, you didn't really grow up you didn't see your parents, you didn't, you know, like you didn't have the internet or books or anything like that. Part of me don't think, at the time, I thought that was normal. Yeah. You know, growing up, I thought that's what everyone went through. And, you know, me being like a 4-year-old kid, I thought this is like norm. You know, this is norm. And so I never even thought beyond that. Oh man, like people living in mansion. Like I wasn't even exposed to, like what even is a mansion, you know, all that kind of stuff. Right. Yeah. And so part of me, I feel like I miss it to the extent of, like, I don't know. I felt like I was truly present for what I was living it. You know, there weren't a lot of distraction. I was truly living life present and not worrying about anything else in the world. It's part of that, but I'm also grateful I'm not there anymore. Yeah, you know, I've learned a lot, and that's why I came back to the U.S. to continue my journey.
Okay, and then, because that's cool, because that's why I was like, do you ever miss that? Because, yeah, you probably didn't have a lot, but there's also a lot you probably had more of. Like I guarantee in a village the community's way stronger.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Your neighbor cares way more about your well-being in a village than like your neighbors do here.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Like we would have people over, all the time, and growing up in the Chinese culture, that's another factor too, right? Like it's a very community based, kind of a culture where everyone kind of helps each other out, kind of a deal. So, oh yeah, no, 100%. So I was going through it all, but I didn't feel like I was a sore loser living in a village and then another person was in a mansion. I thought this was normal and this is just how life is.
Okay.
And so I liked it when I was there.
That's cool. And then so you did that a few times, and then when you turn 9, what changes? So
turn 9. So when I turned 7, I think 7, 8, at that point I've lived with like all my relatives, like all my uncles. Like I remember sometimes I would be living there. I would be living at my uncle's house and there wasn't a room for me.
Okay.
I would just sleep on the floor and I would switch a room every night. Like I would just like.
You're like, we're bouncing.
Yeah, we're bouncing because there wasn't a room for me, and that would happen often. Or I would sleep in restaurants, where they work, and so basically when I turned 7 or 8, I think it was around 7, I started living with one of my grandma's friend. Like it was like pushing out to the relative. Yeah. And I think my parents didn't trust them that much. Right?
Yeah.
I was like watching so much TV. I wasn't, developing myself, and my mom's like, hey, you got to like come back to the US now. And by then, I mean, my parents still hasn't made it yet. Yeah. But it was like getting bad enough that I was like, okay, Andy, you got to come back,
Okay.
Yeah.
Real quick, adjust the mic to be like a little more that way, like this part, just because whenever you turn your head, for some reason, it's like a little breakout. But okay.
Like this? Is this good now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, cool.
I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, so.
And when I moved out and when I moved back, I didn't know a word of English,
Yeah.
Because I ended up going to school in China, so I went preschool to 2nd grade.
How far away is the school when you're living in the village?
Oh, so I started in the village, but I didn't like end up like leaving from the village. You know, so because we got like upgraded. My parents my parents started making money, so every year they would send money back. Okay. So when I hit like 5, I think 5 or something, or 4.5 years old, something like that. We like upgraded to the village. So we left all the other villages. We moved into more of the city. It was like a high-rise tower. Okay. Like if you live in China, like there was no elevators. I still remember you have to walk. Like we were walking like 30 stair floors, and it was just like at the very top. Okay. But preschool was like 10 minutes away.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's wild. And then, so you moved back. Mm-hmm. Are you guys still in New York?
So, no. So, when I moved back here, my parents has already landed in Utah. Okay. Yeah. So, when I was still going to school in China, by then my parents had, like my mom and dad, they've lived in like 5 different states. Trying to like make money.
They're trying to figure it out. Yeah.
And then in Utah, what they ended up is because kind of like what I said, they started as cooks, waiters. They were like, they were smart enough saying, okay, we can't like make a living being a cook forever or a cashier forever, so they want to start a restaurant here. Okay. And then they some family members kind of came together. They want to start a restaurant here, and so when I moved back here, I think they've had the restaurant maybe for like 2 years. Okay. Yeah.
So, then you come back to Utah, which is way different than New York.
Oh yeah, 100%, way different.
Were you like, wait, what? Or like what went through your head when you first came to Utah?
To me, growing up, I think I was such a clueless guy. I was like, just take me where you want me to be, right?
Yeah.
But I remember we departed in New York, right? New York. And New York is a crazy city. Like, it's wild, right? You walk everywhere. There's lights everywhere. There's a lot of, like, fast-paced people. You go, 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 go. And that's my parents. They're, like, fast-paced people. We get it done, you know? And then when I moved here, like, shoot, everything was, like, slower paced. Like, slower paced. I remember, like, but I wasn't comfortable with people because I started, so I don't know, weird thing is in New York, I remember in the city, I didn't see a lot of, in the town I grew up, there were just, like, Asian people.
Okay.
You know, Asian people.
Yeah.
And then, I started seeing, wow, dude, there's like no Asians here.
None.
I go to school. In fact, my first day at school, I was so scared to, like, go to class. Like, my mom was pulling me to get in class. Like, no joke. I'm like, wow, like, these people look different. Look different than me. And I was in China for so long, and I didn't feel very comfortable. Yeah, I kind of cried the first day of school because I was so scared.
Yeah.
In the car, I was like, man, I really don't want to go.
You're like, I don't want to go there.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know what to expect. But luckily enough, yeah. I didn't know English at the time either.
Okay. And so while you're overcoming, like, not only the cultural difference of coming and going from China and New York to coming to Utah.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get used to, like, going to school and trying to, like, would you say you were at the same, like, education level, like, with the schools, or were you past it, or were you behind it? Like, when you got to school, did you feel like you knew what was going on, or you had to play catch up?
Oh, yeah, I 100% need to play catch up.
Okay.
So in China, I did preschool to second grade. So I've already graduated in China. I've already graduated second grade.
Okay.
When I came here, they had me redo second grade.
Okay.
Because I was like, I didn't know anything. I didn't know English. They were like, hey, we recommend you to redo second grade. And that's what ended up happening, right? And, yeah, I had a lot to catch up on. I remember my first day, the teachers, like the staff, they knew I didn't know English. They found another Asian person. Like, that was a grade older than me. We weren't in the same class. He was like, yo, teach him English. We're like, it was like,
they're like, help him. Help him.
Forced volunteer. Yeah, I still know the guy to this day, But he was like, what the heck is this, dude?
Yeah.
So I had no friends. I knew nobody. And he ended up didn't even helping me that much. We were just like, we were both, like, super shy. I didn't really want to talk to people. But it was, like, my first breakthrough. Okay, I can feel a little comfortable here, So that was huge. Like, the staff were willing to go out of the way.
Yeah.
To pretty much find a friend for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so, would you say after that, like, with all the way through, like, high school, would you say you did well in school or no?
So I was very, when I came to America, basically all I did was school. Okay. Up to a certain point, right? So I actually learned English very fast. So I probably learned it in 2 years. Okay. Like, after I was going to summer school, and I was, like, when you're at that age, like, luckily I was still young when I was, learning English, grasping the concept of English. And, but yeah, after 2 years, I was, like, pretty solid, comprehension was getting much better. And then after 2 years, I think I was just a normal student. Now, throughout that to high school, I wouldn't consider myself the best student, I've always felt like everyone was, like, smarter than me. And they were like, I swear, everyone felt like I would talk to people, and it just felt like I had to work extra hard in order to achieve the same things.
Okay.
You know, and that was really due to, like, in the beginning, it was like the English, my comprehension was like the lowest in my class, like all throughout like elementary. You know, I would have to read the same things like a couple times in order to understand the book.
Yeah, because you almost had to read it, translate it, read it again, translate it to even remember it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So basically all throughout elementary, you know, I felt like I had to work a lot harder. But, you know, I didn't really see that as like a weakness. I just knew, you know, everyone has a different background, and I just had to do what I had to do. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I was an awful student. So, like, I was really good at, like, tests and, like, learning. But, like, when I was more, like, I was younger and I was immature, I would, like, toy with the teachers because I was bored. Right? So, like, that's why I asked. I was like, do you feel like you were good? Like, because for me, I was a bad student, but I was a good learner.
Gotcha.
Because I would just get so bored, I would just be like, okay, you're not that smart, right? And then I'd, like, toy with the teacher.
Yeah.
Which, looking back on it now that I'm older, I'm like, they were just trying to do their job.
Yeah,
and you're, like, sitting here toying with them.
Right.
But, so you felt school kept you pretty entertained.
I was like a B student.
Yeah.
I was like a B to B plus. Like, I
Yeah.
was never like A plus, like 4.0, you know, kind of a deal.
Yeah.
But I kept myself afloat.
Yeah.
My parents would be pissed at me.
Yeah, they wouldn't play with you.
You know, I would get kicked out of the house.
Yeah, if you got bad grades.
Exactly.
They'd be like, you're going back to your uncle's.
Yeah, exactly. Well, ever since growing up, my parents would, you know, put the thought into me, like, they did all the hard work, and I already have a U.S. citizenship. Like, my mom didn't get a green card, and she had to go through this whole process. They were both citizens now, but they had to go through this whole process. You know, like, it wasn't the easiest, starting from the ground up, and I'm kind of handed this plate.
Yeah.
You know, of going to school.
They're like, we gave you your future. You better do a good job.
Yeah, you better, like, pay us back.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm like their investment, you know? They don't want the investment to go down. Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, you are the prime investment.
Exactly.
So, okay. And when you're in high school, did you think you would ever own your own company or do your own thing?
No, completely no, not at all. So you know, when I was in high school, you know, I had no clue what I wanted to do. I think I didn't even think about what I wanted to do when I hit, like, maybe 10th grade in high school. So, but I was like, man, I got to figure it out. So I started taking so many classes. I was like, I need to figure this out. So just a little background. When I was in junior high, I started making YouTube videos.
Okay.
Yeah. So, because I was playing Minecraft. You know, it was like, Minecraft was like my game. You know, I would come back home. I would be in school and I'd be thinking about Minecraft. You know, and I played it with my little brother all the time.
Okay.
You know, and I would be watching videos and all these YouTube videos, like Sky Does Minecraft, where all these people, you know, I'm like, wow, they're making YouTube videos. And I was like, man, like, I could just, I might as well, I record myself, you know?
Yeah.
And so for the longest time, like for 3 years, I thought I was going to be like the top dog Minecraft YouTuber, but it didn't really go anywhere. I think I ended up uploading like 100 videos.
Okay.
100 videos, and like one of my top videos got like 200,000 views.
Yeah.
It was like consistency, and it was just, and it was a lot of fun, right? And then so that didn't go well, because I ended up making like 8 cents, you know, 8 cents. Like,
yeah.
I didn't know what monetize meant. Like,
yeah.
But I learned everything. Like I learned Adobe, you know, all the design, how to make a intro. You know, I did everything from scratch. And I was so passionate that I was waking up at 6 a.m. every morning before school to edit the videos.
Yeah.
That I was like so passionate, and I was like, man, if I could put this passion to something else, I would do so good. So, but I didn't know what I want to do. So 10th grade, I started taking lots of classes. I started taking like theater classes.
Okay, just to see.
Yeah, and choir classes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I even auditioned to be be in like a movie. I was like in an extra in a movie here too.
Okay.
And I thought I was gonna be an actor. Honestly, I just want to be famous because like Minecraft. I was like, oh man, like so cool doing that, But I did that. I did so many different classes. I did like arts, a lot of fine arts, history, psychology. I still didn't know what I wanted to do, right? So after doing all of those classes, just one day I still remember the day. Like I was just like I grew up knowing that we didn't have like the silver spoon, like we didn't grow up with a lot. So I was like, man, what's like the most successful career, But my parents would always say doctor, lawyer, that was kind of ingrained into my brain. Yeah. So I didn't really know that I wanted to get into business until like 16. That I wanted to do something of service, something of real estate, something. Until I was 16. And that was because when I was in high school, I was in this business club. And then someone recruited me for door-to-door sales.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, door-to-door sales.
So you ended up doing door-to-door sales?
Yeah, when I was like 16. So I was in this club. It was DECA.
Yeah.
It was DECA club. And I had one of the leadership roles at the time. And it was like a post-meeting we had. Someone came in. He was like, hey, we're looking to find door-to-door salespeople, and you can make a lot of money.
You were like, money!
That was literally me. I was like, shoot, I don't know what to do. Oh, yeah, and by the way, it's like that was like me almost turning 17, so I got a retail job at 16 at Smith's, just like being a bagger.
Oh, yeah, the OG. I was a bagger at Smith's, too. That's dope.
Yeah. Courtesy clerk?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go, dude. You know it.
Sitting there, you're like,
oh, yeah.
Just putting stuff in bags.
I swear I was the best bagger in the world, but I feel like I wasn't getting paid enough.
You would Tetris it all perfect, or what?
Oh, yeah. Dude, I would have like these techniques.
You're like, I don't get paid enough for this profession.
Yeah, I know. So I was there for like 3 months, and I was kind of, 3 months, and that was like my first legit job, and I basically, first legit job, that was like the summer, the summer, first legit job, and then basically I was like, shoot, this sucks, but I still need money, so I got another job at Kumon.
Okay.
Yeah, but I only worked there for 1 month because I was so bored, I fell asleep, so I got laid off. Yeah. It was like the worst. Yeah, so it was like, no, I'm not doing that. And then it was like shortly after that, I got recruited for basically door-to-door sales. And it's door-to-door sales over that summer to basically go knock doors in Ohio. And a little backstory, just kind of like me growing up, I was always super shy. Like the shy to the level that we would have Chinese New Year's or family gatherings, and I would be so timid to talk to like my aunt. Like I just couldn't talk to anybody. I was such a rule follower. Okay. I was like, don't do anything wrong, Andy, or else. I mean, maybe that was like part of the fear that my parents gave me. Don't screw up. You gotta get A's. Whatever. Yeah. But I grew up super timid, super shy. So I still remember I had that door-to-door. We had the DECA the business club meeting, and then they made that pitch. Hey, whoever want to join, this is be a super good experience for a summer. You'll learn a lot. And I knew that was like a good opportunity, but I started, I still remember, like I was so shy. I knew I wanted to do it, but I was so shy to even say anything. Like I was like that shy.
You're like, do I go do this? I don't know if I should do this.
Exactly. So I was like playing it cool. Like the meeting had ended, and everyone is I guess the recruiter was like, hey, come up to me, and we'll get your information down, and we'll get it going. Schedule a meeting, with with the people in the company. So I literally, like, in my mind, should I do it? Should I not do it? Man, I feel like I should definitely do it, but I was so scared to even talk. So I just played it cool. I started walking out. I was like, I literally walked out for like 60 seconds, and I ran back. And I was like, oh, man, I should definitely do it.
Yeah.
You know? And that door-to-door sales experience actually changed my life.
Really?
Like, completely. Like me being 16, 17, super shy, that was what I really needed to give me the courage and confidence to do what I do now.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. I don't think people really fathom how hard it is to break that out of yourself. So, like, to do what you do or do what I do, you have to lose the fear of talking to people. Like, it has to be deleted out of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's no way you're going to generate deals and complete them if you can't even talk to someone because you're scared they're going to not like you. And I feel like a lot of people, that fear of like, well, what do they think? Or I'm scared to go do this. Or why would they talk to me? Stops them from achieving huge goals. Because like, I wouldn't have 4 barbershops and 30 employees if I was scared to talk to people.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And you wouldn't have been able to close deals if you were, like, especially when you're doing something independently, like, it's on you. Like, if you hide in the corner, you make 0.
Exactly.
So that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like, what I've learned is being shy is expensive. Like, throughout my career.
That's a bar. That was dope.
Like,
yeah.
It is, and that's what I've learned. Like, every time you don't speak up, you don't talk, you're losing money, but you're also losing part of yourself, you know, is of what opportunity that might be out there, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're in Oklahoma and
Ohio.
Ohio. Okay. Yeah. And what are you selling?
So it was AT&T DirecTV service.
Sick. Okay.
Yeah. So I remember I got dropped, like, and I'm so lucky to be, I think back, I'm so lucky to be with the group of people that I was, my colleagues, because I know sometimes door to door, they put you with people you don't really get along, might not be the best people, but everyone there I pretty much look up to, when I got there. So it was like absolute, like, in my environment was completely changed. Like, these guys were not just like how much money they make, whatever, but also like the person, the husband that they were, the person that they were, the books that they were reading, the training, like all the stuff that I didn't know, it just exposed me into this world of self-development. I didn't even know what the heck self-development, like, this is a whole thing, like, you're supposed to improve yourself, Yeah. I'm like, wow, crazy, right? So I go there and I'm just like, wow, I was kind of immersed into this. But I still remember, the first time they dropped me off in a location in one of the neighborhoods, I didn't knock a door until like 30 minutes in. I was like walking and I would just like, I swear I would go up to the door and then I would walk to the next door.
Because you were like, I'm going to turn around.
Yeah, let me like practice my pitch a little bit more and then I can like shoot my shot.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I still remember that first day. Yeah.
And so that's cool. It started you on your journey of like, oh, I can build myself to what I want to be.
Exactly.
And you did that during the summer, like in between school, so you had to go back to school after, or?
Yeah. So I think right when I arrived there, I think I turned 17. So it was like my junior year. So I had to go back to school for my senior year.
Yeah.
So.
And so you come back from that experience into school. Did you feel different when you went back to school?
100%. And that's why I always say, as much as hard that experience was and everything about it, I felt like it was needed for my personal development. Like, I came back like another different man, I feel like the business club I was in, I wasn't doing that good. Like, I was there were competitions. I was like losing all of them, I come back, I started like winning all of them.
You tasted it, bro. While you were out there, you're like, I'm gonna win.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And it was like, man, I'm here to dominate. I'm here to take over. I'm not here to take part anymore as like another person in the background. I'm about to be the main character of my life. That was the feeling when I stepped back into school.
Okay, and so you graduate.
Yeah, graduate.
And do you go back out to do door-to-door, or what happens then?
So I graduate, and so after I did door-to-door, I learned a lot, but I knew that door-to-door wasn't something, doesn't matter how successful you can be. It wasn't something I was like truly passionate about and truly something I want to do forever, And my goal after that was finding, it kind of narrowed down my search a little bit more. I want to get into something with business, something, like you have all these majors, when you start applying for college, you put, okay, what major do you want to be? Like I've kind of honed down, okay, I want to be something business related, but I didn't go back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so do you end up going to college?
Yeah, so what ended up happening is and this kind of leads into the mortgage part, because after I came back from door to door, I was like, I got to get into something business. So I instantly got like another sales job on the phone. I was like a telemarketer selling for lawn care and weed lawn care. Did that. Making good money, like, because I was good at sales at that time, I was learning, but I was like, nah, I don't want to do this. I had a couple other jobs, but I didn't want to do this. And then, but this whole time I was like researching into a lot of stuff, like real estate, mortgages. So one day my mom just told me, oh, you should check out like mortgages,
Okay.
Check out mortgages, because my parents have always used one mortgage broker when buying their primary homes and all the houses, right? And he was a really successful guy, really one of the top mortgage brokers in Utah, And I was like, man, I'll give it a shot. So I started. So you need a license, typically, in order to get into mortgages. So I was studying that my senior year
for the test.
For the test.
Okay.
So I started, like your semester is like January, like your final semester is like January to May, right? So I started studying my that mortgage license test, and then basically I got the license 10 days after I graduated.
Okay.
From high school. So I had that license, and then no one was, and then I found a company to hop on with like 3 months later.
Okay.
Like no one was like recruiting at the time. Like mortgages wasn't like 2020, 2021 yet. Like, and nobody wanted, I had no experience. I just had a license.
So you had to go look.
Oh yeah. I did like 10 interviews.
Okay.
It was like trying to see, okay. And I finally got one just because I had some family that were in real estate and that was willing to help me a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it was, and then
because people wouldn't take you serious, huh?
Exactly.
I had that same problem. So the first barbershop we opened, we were 20. So like everybody just looked at us like, you're going to be my boss, Yeah. Like what, why? Right. And then like you being young, other people don't take you seriously because they're like, well, you're younger than me, so you have to like shine through work ethic and results, not because people just trust you.
Oh yeah,
right.
100%.
So I'm assuming that's kind of what happened for you.
100%. That's exactly what happened. Like my parents thought it was gonna be, oh, you just find a company to hang your license like a real estate agent, where it's like, and then they have like a training program, but it was none of it. It was none of it. It was like I had to go out there, and I think part of me also had an ego, after that whole sales experience, which like looking back, man, like I don't know, ego could have been a good thing or a bad thing, but I was like, I want to be a loan officer from the get-go. I don't want to be no assistant. It was like totally an ego I had at that time, you know, which I don't recommend. You know, I feel like in this industry you have to kind of work your way up a little bit. But I just jumped. I was like, I want to be a loan officer. So I just interviewed so many, and then I found a company that was willing to take me on as a loan officer.
Okay. I like that. That's how I was about being a barber. I was like, no. I'll sweep hair, but I'm becoming a barber today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That was totally me. I was like, totally me. I'm not getting into the mortgage industry until I get that. You know, that was me. So.
And so you start off at that company, and what's the first thing you were like, oh, I did not expect that?
Dude, the mortgage industry is really complicated. Like, I was, I was very, very lucky. The company that I found, they had someone willing to, teach me and, take part of my cut, right, for teaching me. But he was kind of teaching me a lot. But basically, I still remember when I got into the industry, my boss, the owner of the company, he was like, you got to purchase these 3 handbooks. Like, it was like this thick, dude. It was like, he's like, because I was asking, how did you become successful? He's like, the first 6 months, you just got to like put your head into these. It was like conventional loans, FHA loans, VA loans. You like write it all over. So I swear I ordered. So I ordered them. You know, it was like $100, and the first 6 months, dude, I just woke up every morning going through all the information, you know, and I had no clue, you know. That was something I didn't expect. I thought it was like, oh, just mortgages, you know, like someone funds a loan, I just find the client,
run it and gun it, we'll seal deals.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, people were asking me questions. I was like, shoot, I have no idea. And
flipping through the book, huh?
ChatGPT wasn't a thing at the time. But yeah, that's basically what I did. Like, I realized how much education and how much guidelines, how much stuff you need to know. Because mortgages is an industry where you not just have to be a technical person, like very technical, such as knowing the guidelines, being a nerd, and knowing how to structure client deals, loans, but you also have to be an effective communicator, right? Kind of like the two kind of blends together. So,
well, especially like the way you would do a mortgage for me would be way different than you would do a mortgage for someone who works at Adobe. But, right? Because
exactly.
Because I'm a business owner. So me saying I'm a business owner, you already know your loan is going to be harder to do.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be like, okay, well, I have $40,000 in depreciation.
Yeah.
And I need you to add that back on. And I'm only showing that I made $50,000. Mm-hmm. And I've got companies that are cash flowing, but I'm writing everything off down to the penny.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, how much do you have down? Right? Like, it gets complicated because everybody's financial situation is so different. Like, a student loan could affect a mortgage, or a car loan could change, because it's not your fault, but you're held into a really tight window of what allows an underwriter to accept a loan, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. There are standard loan programs. They call it like conforming loans, right, where it's backed by the government, where they have a set rules, right, where it's you got to follow these rules, or else it's going to be a little harder for you to get a loan. And for me, being and that was another reason I became a mortgage broker, just because, I can have access to more banks and options where it might be outside of those rules to maybe get the loan done.
Okay.
But yes, you're right. Like, standard format, there are certain requirements, yes. Yeah.
And then so with your knowledge now, you're able to get outside, like, you probably do a certain amount within those criteria because it fits.
Still, yeah.
But then you've also probably learned like different ways to get funding that aren't the standard. What are like 2 of those?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, so let's just say for like a business owner, right? Like, say a business owner, they didn't file a lot in taxes, right? So if you're getting like a conventional or FHA loan, they're going to see, oh, you only make 40, 50 grand. Well, average house is like 500, 600 in Utah. You know, you can't really get a loan for 400, 500, right? So in that case, but you make a lot of money, you know, say you're depositing a lot of money. Like one option is, they call it like a business bank statement loan, where instead of looking at your tax returns, they look at your business bank statements, seeing how much you're depositing and basically negate whatever you file on your taxes. Okay. They just use your business bank statements, right? So it's just a more creative way of like, okay, basically we're not looking at your tax returns. We're just going to base off of the income based on your business based on your business bank statements, right? Looking at like a 12 months trail history of like, okay, you're depositing like $6,000 a month. That's what we're going to use, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
And would they use that for like a mortgage or a line of credit, or what would they use that for?
What do you mean? Like
would it be for like that loan? Is it like, what is that to like get approved for financing of like an object, or are you able to get like loans for like cash flow based off of that type of thing?
Oh, yeah. So basically they would be using the business bank statements to qualify for a mortgage.
Okay.
Right. So say call it, for example, you deposit, I don't know, $6,000 every single month. That's what you show to the lender, saying that, okay, looks like you average a deposit of $6,000 a month, you know, minus expenses, whatever. Then we're going to use that as your income, as part of your debt to income to qualify. Right? So no tax returns, no nothing. Doesn't matter if you file like $20,000. We're just going to go off your business bank statements. Okay. Right? So like stuff like that, like if you go to Wells Fargo, like these big banks, retail, like they can't do stuff like that. No. You know, you have to go through someone like a mortgage broker where, hey, we're looking at the entire situation to see, okay, how can we like put the whole deal together? Right? And that's still... so I do that all the time, just depending on kind of what the, client needs are and stuff like that. But I still do all the traditional, that's majority still.
Yeah. Well, because obviously there's not very many people who are funneling, like there's not a lot of business owners is the best way to put it. So, but it's cool that like you've dived in and you're not mainly focused on one. You're like trying to be good at all of it, you know?
Yeah. I think... For me, there was two reasons I wanted to become more like a mortgage broker, because I could work at a bank, right? I could work at like a retail or whatever. There's two reasons. Number one reason is definitely the products and options that's available, right? Like I have clients coming to me where they've gotten declined, but we were able to say yes. Right, for getting like a mortgage. And then number two reason, also being a mortgage broker, there's two different types of lenders out there. There's like wholesale mortgages or retail mortgages. So we're on the wholesale side. So some of the lenders like you can't even work with unless you go through a mortgage broker. But the reason that is because our job is to shop you at like 30 different banks to find like the best interest rate. It's kind of like a mortgage auction, right? Like I create your application and I put it on auction. Okay, who's gonna give the best deal, for this client based on 720 credit score? Oh, this income, and then the lender will fight to get this client, right? That's how it works with a mortgage broker. I just do everything, So if the client specifically wants me to send this loan to this lender, I can. Most clients don't really care 99% of the time. They just want to get a mortgage. Then I would just shop the entire mortgage for them. And then, yeah, exactly.
Find the best deal.
Find the best deal. And find the best deal. And, and I worked at retail before. And just because me doing through that process, we're able to get like so much like a better deal than a lot of other people. And like my whole thing is like we compete to win no matter what, like we don't want to lose a loan because we have worse rates. Like we will win every loan no matter what, That's like how I see it.
Yeah, which benefits you and benefits them.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you get to make your commission off the deal, but they get the best option of a deal.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So like my goal is just kind of finding the best deal for them, see and then finding the best option for them, purchase or refinance, and just providing to the clients.
Yeah. For you right now, how many hours a week do you think you're working?
Do I work? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's kind of like all over the place. I mean, I work probably like 60. I feel like 60.
Around 60.
Around 60. So like these days, well, here's the thing. Like right now, you know, I'm not married. I don't have kids. So some weeks I typically, it's doing like Monday through Saturday, like 10 to 12 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's cool for you, so you're able to, because you're the broker, you're able to pretty much do that as long as you have an internet connection, right? Like as long as you can connect to the internet, you can be anywhere and work.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Cool. So, which is awesome. A lot of people want that for themselves, but it's cool to let them kind of grasp, like, but you're working 60 hours a week. Like, a lot of part of being an entrepreneur is everybody wants our freedom in our schedules, but they don't understand that, like, but there isn't that much freedom in it. Like, I can pick where and when I'm going to be somewhere, but everything around that, I have to work. Right?
I know, yeah.
Like, but you probably have fun. Like, I have fun working. A lot of people are like, why do you work so much? And I'm like, I don't really feel like it's working.
It's part of your identity.
Yeah.
Who you are.
Yeah, like,
you know.
I feel like whether I owned barbershops or I did something else, like, I have that hunger of, like, I just like doing hard things.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, no, I love it.
If it's hard to learn, there's a reason, and it's probably cool. So
right.
I'm trying to do it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and kind of like going back to what you said, people, when they say about being an entrepreneur, they have like the destination. Oh, I want to be this successful. But every time they say it, it's like a dopamine that hits them. You know, it's like, oh, every time you say, oh, I want to do this many, it's like a dopamine, you know, but they don't know the actual work of what that you have to go through, right? Like last year, like, I mean, we did 25, we did 25 million in mortgage closed volume, which not a lot of people do, you know, as an independent mortgage broker. But I didn't even know that number until like the very end.
Yeah, because you were on the journey.
Yeah.
You were focused. You're like, okay, let's do this. Okay, let's do this. Okay, can we get another person? Let's do this.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what's cool about being an entrepreneur, or like even just going on a hard adventure. Like, it doesn't have to be based off money, but like if you pick something that's hard to do but you enjoy doing it, you start to forget that you're doing it. Like when I first started, I'd always set these goals. But then when I'd hit the goal, I had already picked a new goal. And, like, I forgot about the first goal. I'm like, oh, we did that? Cool. Next. Like, because I was having so much fun, like, flexing my brain on the tasks at hand. Like, okay, we're gonna learn, air quotes, we're going to learn how to make $100,000. But then by the time you make $100,000, you realize, like, oh, so it was just these 10 things that made it so I could make 100. Okay, let's make 200,000. Okay, and then you're like, okay, now let's see if we add 5 people into that equation, if it does the same thing. Or
right.
Which is cool because you're in the middle of building your own company, right?
Yeah.
So, like, are you planning on taking on employees in that company?
Oh, yeah. Like, right. I mean, Kai Mortgage, I, like, just started this. Yeah. So, you know, in 12 months, 24 months, Kai Mortgage will totally be different than where it is right now, right? Like, right now, the reason I really wanted to start is just because my business is growing exponentially, and I need more team members, and it's always been a dream of mine too. So I've kind of already interviewed a couple like other loan officers to join first weekend. You know? Yeah.
Because you got to go now.
Yeah.
Right. You're doing it, so it's time to go. And like, I think that's another weird part is you start scaling your business. Mm-hmm. Once you master lead generation, the next problem is staff. Like you have to be able to generate leads, but then you have to have the staff to keep up with those leads.
Oh, yeah.
right? Like
100%.
I'm sure you generate more than enough leads for yourself right now.
Yeah.
That's why you're looking for someone you can pass some things to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think, or even like an assistant that helps me, right? Or like another loan processor that helps me process the file. Like my whole thing is, doesn't matter how big my business grows, like we want to remain this level of customer experience and satisfaction, right? And I know that one person, sometimes like if I'm closing this many loans a month, I might not be able to service each client as the best as I could if I don't have team members,
Because you don't have the time.
Exactly.
You can only do like that. That's like, I feel in all business, like where a real problem starts to arise is like, okay, I don't have time to do these 20 tasks in a day. Like for me right now, I've been really pondering the thought of like an assistant, or like for me, it'd either be an assistant. Right now I have one of my managers at one of my locations, I've been teaching him editing.
Oh, cool.
So like he's my editor right now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like now I edit the podcast and stuff because I haven't had time to like sit down with him and teach him how I want the podcast edited.
Yeah.
But it's because it starts to overlap, right? Like
Yeah.
when you're doing stuff, okay, so now you have to do, as a business owner, everybody, you have to do your accounting, you have to do your payroll, you have to do your lead generation, you have to do client satisfaction, you have to do training for your new employees or your current employees. You have to do team bonding and team building. You have to do, like, so there becomes a list to where, like, for me, I do all the accounting for 3 of the locations, right? So for 12 hours of my week, I'm doing QuickBooks, right?
Yeah, you're just doing the back end.
Yeah, I'm just doing the back end. I'm typing in QuickBooks. Okay, these transactions went out. These transactions came in. Here's our cash flow. Here's what we're able to do right now.
Yeah.
And so, but I know, like, at a certain point, I have to give that 12 hours worth of work to someone else so I can go make more money.
Yeah.
Because that's not making me money. It's making sure the money goes out.
Right.
Which is good.
Yeah, which is, you want to
It's not a bad thing. Yeah. You need to pay your employees. But
right.
So that's what's cool when you're starting to expand like you are, is like, okay, now the first thing I'm going to tell you, I don't know, have you had assistants or employees before?
No.
Okay.
I'm still like in the learning process.
I'm going to tell you something brutally honest, but that'll help you a lot.
Yeah.
Don't let yourself think they care about you more than they do.
Yeah.
Because it's good. It's good to build bonds with people. It's good to have trust in them. It's good to build friendships. It's all of that. But at the end of the day, they're doing it for $1 and they're doing a job. And so don't get too caught up on friendships with your employees. Be friendly and be their friend, but know that, like, if this person's underperforming for you, you have to change it. If they're going to quit, like, they're going to quit.
Yeah.
Inevitably, someone is going to quit.
Right.
And it's not your fault.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's really hard for new business owners. Is like, it took me about 2 years. I used to get upset. I'd be like,
when someone quits?
Or I had to let them go or whatever it was. It would really impact me because I care. Right? So my warning to you is, as you scale with employees and within your business, don't take it personal, no matter how good of a friend they are. Yeah. Because it's business. And then on top of that, don't be scared to let the wilting flower wilt and bring a fresh flower in.
Right.
Because it's, and that's savage, but it's not. Like, you're going to be in charge of multiple people's livelihood. So if one person is going to sacrifice all their livelihood, you have to make the right decision. Even if they're your friend. And I've had to do it.
I bet it's hard, especially, especially it's like, as you were talking, it reminds me, because it's not as much as you want it to be transactional. It's also, you're dealing with another human, right?
You're building a connection.
Yeah. They could be at your New Year party, or X, Y, and Z, right? But no, I appreciate that, because I'm sure Kai Mortgage is brand new. I was a solo guy for the longest time. And so now the fact that I have to bring on, it's going to be a whole nother dynamic, managing like everything,
It's hard. Like right now we've been open. We're on our 7th year being open, and we're still figuring out how to properly train. If that makes sense. Like, it's always changing. Like, okay, let's try this. Okay, this didn't work. Okay. Yeah. So, like, don't get discouraged, but sometimes it's going to be your fault you have to fire someone because you didn't train them properly over the course of 6 months that they have bad habits, and now you're trying to change those habits, and it's like a teenager when you give them candy every day, and then at month 6, you're like, you're only allowed to eat vegetarian. They're going to be like, what?
What the heck?
What are we doing?
Yeah.
And so, that's my advice coming from one business owner to another is, like, you're going to make mistakes. That's okay. Don't quit. But 2, it's going to get raw sometimes because you're going to be like, hey, you're underperforming, and you're going to warn them 3 or 4 times, and you're going to be like, I like you. Like, I would go hang out with you. We could go golfing. We could go snowboarding. Yeah. But you can't work here because you can't do it.
You can't do it.
And so that's, like, one of the raw things that I've gone through over the past few years that, like, if I can give anybody advice that's, like, new to having employees, it's like, don't take it personal. Right. Because it's going to sting. If you have to fire them or they quit, it's going to sting.
No, I appreciate that a lot because I'm definitely that, I feel like I can be that type of person where I care about them so much where it's like, man, we can make it work. It's like when you're in a nasty relationship, but you don't want to get a divorce.
Yeah.
Right.
You're like, but we love each other. Yeah. It's like, yeah, but it's toxic.
Yeah, it's toxic. You come back and you don't, whatever.
We're about to hit each other. We got to chill,
Yeah, exactly. No, I 100% agree. So, as I grow, I got to call you for advice.
Hey, I'll call you for advice on some mortgages some type.
Yeah.
But, no, that's cool that you're going on this journey and you've really found something you're passionate about. And that's what it's all about is it's the journey, not the destination. So,
oh yeah, I think that's what I have to. I feel like it's still something I have to remind myself every day. That it's about the journey. It's about the journey, not the destination. Because you still get like distracted with all these people, like doing all this stuff. Like I want to ask you, what made you want to start your own barbershop at 20 instead of just wait 2 more years?
One, so this is funny because I tell people this all the time.
Yeah.
If I knew everything I knew now, I would never start a barbershop.
Oh.
Because I love my barbershops and I love everybody who visits them, and I'm grateful. Mm-hmm. But the business skills I've learned and the things I know how to do don't just apply to barbershops. Mm-hmm. And barbershops are really... by the end of the day, so like we did $1.5 million in service sales last year, and that's off $30 haircuts, right? So it's a lot of haircuts.
Yeah.
But you pay out 60% to your staff plus their tips. So by the end of the day, you're really only profiting 20-25%
right
ever.
Yeah.
Because you've got to pay rent, you've got to do all these things, right? So I think part of what made me do it is I always knew I was an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But I think immaturity made me do it so fast. But I learned how to mature fast by pushing myself into those really hard situations. It created growth. So like, yeah, I was really young.
Yeah.
And I think I picked the right choices a lot. Like I was right a lot.
Yeah.
And when I was wrong, I recovered fast.
Yeah.
So whenever I would mess up, I would recover and delete it out of my brain really fast and figure out how to fix it. And that made me learn way faster. And being young, I could work way harder. And like if I messed up, I could eat ramen. Now I have a kid, right? So like I can't be like, okay, we're throwing all of it on black, and if it doubles, it doubles.
Yeah,
and if it goes away, I'm eating ramen,
right? Right.
So, I think the hunger to like want to achieve more for myself and my family and my future. But two, like it was totally immaturity. Like I didn't fathom what I agreed to. Where now I would run company. I love running companies and I love building them and I love doing new things. That's why I did a podcast. Is like the podcast doesn't have anything to do with my barbershop. It doesn't make me any money. It doesn't generate any clients for it. I'm building a brand new company. Yeah. And I think I really enjoy like taking something and growing it step by step and understanding like the systems of how it works. Yeah. And then being able to be like, watch this, and then boom. Like I think within a year from now, right now all of our videos are averaging 300 to 500 views. I think a year from now they'll average 1,000, and because it just takes reps, right? Yeah. And so that's why I set the goal for like a weekly episode on the podcast. Is I was like, okay, I could like be really slow about this and be like, I'm gonna do a podcast, and I could do one a month, and then I could sit trying to call like the most famous people trying to get them on the podcast. Or I can take young entrepreneurs and people like myself, and we're not famous, but we're smart. Yeah. And we can give back knowledge to people so then they can hopefully go on their entrepreneurial journey, or they might not even want to be a full-blown entrepreneur, but they want a side hustle, and they can take what we're saying and they can throw it to the side. Yeah. And I feel like that is worth more than like dropping one episode every 3 months because I'm trying to get Ed Milet on my podcast. Like I'd love for Ed to be on my podcast, but I don't have Ed's number and he doesn't know who I am. So I'm going to talk to people like me who are successful or trying to be successful, and eventually the big fish will come, because that's always how it works. Like I started cutting hair. I didn't cut anybody famous. And then once I got really good is when I was able to cut jazz players. I was able to cut people like Little Mosey. Because like people start finding out who you are through stats and through recognition, right? It's same with you. People are probably calling you more now. Yeah. When you first started, they're like, an 18-year-old kid wants to do my mortgage, right? Like, right. Oh yeah. Not in a disrespectful way, but like you're a kid. They're like, he can do a mortgage? What? Yeah. You know? Exactly. Every time I show up at closing, their first question is, how old are you? You're like, I'm 45. You just throw them off. 45. Do I not look good? Man, thank you so much. It's such an honor to hear those words. You know? Yeah. But, oh, yeah, man. No, dude, I that's why I love what you're doing here. You know, I think, like, every entrepreneur has to go through, like, I'm sure you follow, like, Gary Vee. You know, like, you got to, like, put it, I can't remember what he says. Like, you got to be in the dirt before you go out to the clouds or something. Yeah. I can't remember. Well, and you got to put in the work, like, just like you're saying, like, he always says it's about the journey. Yeah. Like, and you have the choice. Like, are you going to do it or not? Yeah. And that's why I was really excited when you reached out to me, because I was like, okay, he's 23, right? You're 23? Yeah, 23 right now. But he's driven, and like, you're working hard, and you're showing stats, and people deserve to kind of hear your story and why you're becoming a little more successful than the people your age. Because like, I'm 28, I'm still technically young for running companies, right? So like, we're the young gun in the game, like, and we're like, how did we signed up? Okay, we're enjoying it. Okay, Why don't other people do it? Because it's hard. And you put your head down and read books for 6 months right when you got into mortgages to get better. But people probably think like you were born better. And you're like, no, you didn't watch me read this book for hours and hours and hours. That's why I know this, right?
I swear my English is still like not the very best, you know. I still remember reading those books. I'm like, what the heck?
You're like rereading it 10 times. You're like,
I could not read like a textbook, you know.
Yeah.
Never doing that, you know. It's like one of those things, you know. Yeah. But oh yeah, dude, like 100%. It's like for me, like the average mortgage broker, you know, they close maybe like like last year was like one a month, maybe 1 or 2, you know, maybe 3, you know, depending. But like for me, it was a lot of the work was put in on the days that you didn't see any success, you know, on like how one of my biggest business fundamentals right now is that we work for next year. We don't work for today. We work for next year. And next year we work for the following year. You know, we don't work and, you know, everyone just wants it today. But that's not how I see it, you know. It's like we have to be willing to put in the work today to get the results tomorrow. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually tell my guys, like, it's the same thing with marketing on social media. I'm like, if you post it today, it's not doing anything. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, it might work tomorrow. I doubt it, but it'll work for next week. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, think about it. Yeah, do a lot of posts and stuff like that go off in the first 24 hours and get a lot of views? Yeah, because the algorithm is testing if it's good content to people that don't know you. But do the people that follow you get on Instagram every day? Probably not.
Right.
Do they get on Facebook every day? Probably not. Right. So really, someone might see a post you made 6 months ago and it gets you a deal.
Yeah.
Like, people don't think about it that way. Like, the internet is forever. So if you post something now, in 2 years is when it's actually valuable.
Right.
But people forget that because we're so used to the TikTok scroll hole that we forget, like, well, did you ever check when that one that popped up on your screen was actually posted? Or did you just think it was today?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
100%.
Because we're all living in our own realities, right?
Right.
And so by putting in the work beforehand, you're putting the pavers down for the foundation of your future.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's cool that you think of it that way too, because it's like, if you don't do the work today, you're never going to get the result tomorrow. Oh, yeah. And if you complain about not having a result today, well, what did you do yesterday? And what did you do the day before?
Exactly.
So,
you know, funny enough is, remember the Minecraft YouTube channel I created?
Yeah.
Like one of the videos got 200,000 views. It was like I checked it 3 years later. Like it was like no views. It was like 3 years later of how long it was on there. But I didn't realize people were checking it out, you know? Like I don't even use that email anymore you know, to check it. But
the delay.
Exactly.
You're never going to get instant satisfaction.
Exactly.
I'm never going to go viral tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm going to go viral over the course of time. And your life is the exact same way. And you shouldn't be worried about going viral. You should be worried about the impact you're leaving on the people around you and the results you're actually able to get in the moment. Because if you do go viral, you better hope you've earned the skills to maintain whatever's given to you.
Right.
Like, if you don't have it.
That's why you see so many people, they go viral and then they kind of disappear. You know, they, someone told me, wasn't there like a rapper back in the 1990s? Like he went super viral. Man, I can't remember his name. Someone told me it was like this viral. He made like 3 songs. And then he just died down.
There's a few of those.
Yeah. I can't remember the specific one, but yeah, same deal. Like I see a lot where it's like they make something viral or their vision for what they do, you know, disappears, you know, throughout because they didn't stay consistent for what they believed in. You know, like what they believed in actually didn't take them far enough.
Yeah, their faith.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild if you think about it, huh?
Yeah.
A lot of people's faith fades within 2 weeks. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, it's second week of January.
That's the drop-off date for everybody's New Year's goal.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild? 90% of people fail their New Year's goal by the end of the second week of January.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, but don't you have faith in yourself? Like what you've done. So how many years did you say you've been doing it?
So I got into the industry when I was 18.
Okay.
But I did go to college.
Yeah.
I did go to college.
Yeah, okay. Let's wrap it back to college.
So I did go to college. I went to the U. So what ended up happening is I got my license and I lost complete motivation.
This is a great part of this.
Because I was in college, right?
Okay.
I went to college and I was like, so I basically didn't do mortgages for like 3 years. So I got my license, but I was an independent loan officer. I only made money when so I was going to school. Like, school was taking up a lot of time. I was maybe helping 1 or 2 families a year, maybe 5 on a good year, So, but at that time I was still going to college. I ended up going full time just last year.
Okay.
No, wait, yeah, 2023. January of 2023. I was technically still in school, but I was like part-time school that I could still do full-time mortgages. Yeah. So in 2023 January, basically hired on like a business coach and became really serious, purchased mentor, started
did the 9s, yeah.
Yeah, dude, did everything. I decided I was going to be the best. That was kind of my mental, and I was going to be the best. I was going to do what it takes to be one of the best in mortgages, right? So that's what ended up happening. Like, and that switch for me, I think really came out of, like, I was in college, but that stage when you're in college, but you feel like you're still lost.
Yeah, a lot of people I feel like go through that where they're like, okay, I'm doing all my generals because I don't know what I want my major to be.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. That was the same thing. So I was taking like business classes. I was an accounting major, and I was like, man, this feels, I don't know. It didn't feel like it didn't feel like it was part of my path, basically, So I felt really lost, and then, with all the mortgages I've done, I think it was like 2022 where I switched over and being like a mortgage broker. And that's when I was like, oh man, dude, being a mortgage broker is so much better than being a retail. And I saw so much potential. I saw a lot of mentors in my world were extremely inspiring. I was like, man, that's when the switch went. So I went full time. So technically I've been in the industry like for 5 years, but I've been full time since like 2023.
So like 2 years.
Yeah.
But you've been in it for a while. But see how like those 2 years, like you had to like dedicate yours. Like,
oh yeah.
Right? Like you wouldn't have gotten to where you are if you were like, okay, this got hard. I'm done.
Oh yeah.
Because I guarantee you had days where you're like scratching your head. You're like, what do I do?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I remember the first time I closed 4 families a month.
Okay.
Like that was like a game changer.
Yeah.
Like I served 4 families. In
1 month.
In 1 month.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I could really do something, And then, but last year I had a couple months where I served 10.
Yeah.
It was like, but I remember 2023, it was, I think I just became really obsessive of the mortgage industry, right? Like, I wanted to know everything about it. I just went, like, I would be thinking about mortgages all the time. I would be at church. I would be like, I was talking to clients at 11 p.m. I would call some of my realtor partners at 12. Like we would have like business calls at 12.
Yeah.
And then we would be up again at 5.
Yeah.
Because I had to hit the gym and get the ball rolling. And that would just be on and on and on and on and on and on. And that was really part of the journey, so yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't understand how obsessed you have to get to be good at something.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't be good if you weren't obsessed. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, if you don't enjoy it enough to be obsessed about it, like people have to think you're a little weird. Like me and Mark used to joke because we'd go to like parties or like be around people. And even when we were there, we'd be talking about like hair and like barbering, and like people would just be like, these guys, you know?
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, sorry, it's all our minds are on at the moment. So,
you know, it's like Warren Buffett. Like I heard a story from Warren Buffett. You know, like he would go on these dates, and he would just have like the worst dates because all he would talk about is stocks.
The girls are like, what is he talking about?
It's like no charisma. Just talking about stocks on the day. I read that somewhere. It was so funny, but it's so true.
It is true.
You know, yeah.
So, for you and your journey, what's a piece of advice you would give to like a younger version of yourself, or to someone who's like coming up trying to do something that's hard?
So my biggest advice, like I feel like there's two, right? There's two. Number one, I keep thinking about being shy is expensive. You know, that changed me. You know, like you have to speak up for what you want. You know, and if you don't speak up for what you want, you might. There's so many doors that might have opened for you, may be closed for you. You know, so that's definitely my number one thing. And then the number two thing is, ever since I got into mortgages, the thing I kept telling myself is, no matter how dumb I am, no matter like how young I am, nobody can disrespect my work ethic. You know, like doesn't matter where I come from, doesn't matter I was immigrated, I didn't know English, I had to do second grade twice. I wasn't like the smartest Asian student. Like I was technically considered not a very smart Asian student. Like
you're like, I do not fit the stereotype.
I know. I wasn't the smartest, but one thing I've always told myself is, doesn't matter how dumb I am, how many mistakes I make, as long as I learn, nobody can disrespect my work ethic and how much hard work I dedicate on improving myself and helping my clients, sharpening my craft. And that's one thing, you know, everyone in the world, if they want me to lose, I'm going to win. Like if there's people that I just wake up, I'm like, man, I'm going to win today, you know, because there's probably people out there that want me to lose, you know, but I'm going to win. That's how I see it. And that just drives me. So, and with that drive, that's kind of carry me through the journey, you know, that I'll do whatever it takes to win, right? I'll get to that level where that they can't tell me, oh, Andy can't do this, because I've already done the work, right?
Yeah, you earned it.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, you know, kind of going back to your question, like anyone starting out or anyone that's a young entrepreneur, man, like how much you separate yourself just by the work ethic you put in, it's like, it's uncomparable. You know, you instantly, by how much you dedicate yourself to your craft, you instantly kind of rise to the top, you know? Yeah.
Through effort.
Yeah.
Effort and execution, right?
Effort and execution, yeah. Without the execution, you're screwed.
Right, but usually effort and like practice helps you execute.
Yeah.
And I like that. I really do.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we've been going for about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Did
that shut off?
That one did shut off.
Oh, that one did shut off.
But I'm really glad I got to learn your story, and hopefully we can be friends, because this was cool. Like,
yeah,
I feel like I know a lot about you. You might not know a lot about me yet.
Yeah, I feel like you didn't have enough screen time as I wanted. You know, it's like you're watching a movie. I was like, hey, I want to know about that guy.
Hey, ask
the
me
director
anything
doesn't
you want.
like put him on.
You know, ask me anything you want. But no, I really appreciate you being on, and I really like your viewpoint on life with like work ethic and not letting yourself be weighed down by the cards you were dealt. Because it's super important. Like, I grew up in a family where I almost did have a silver spoon because my grandpa was really hardworking. So I never really had problems getting tangible things. But then, like, my mom was like an alcoholic my whole life. And so, like, we had our own problems, right? But it's good to see that, like, no matter who you are or where you come from, as long as you dedicate yourself to persevere through it, and like you said, like, I refuse to let myself lose. If I lose, that's okay, but I'm not gonna let it happen. I won't allow myself to lose. You're gonna have to beat me, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that if you can learn the pride in your work to make yourself a step better every day, eventually you'll be a mile in front of everybody else. And it's probably happening for you right now, where you're really young for your industry, you're ahead, and you're doing bigger and better things every time, and you're not letting it give you an ego, right?
Yeah.
Because if you had an ego, you wouldn't talk to me. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. You know, one of the hardest things, like, I still got so much, every day I think about what could I do better, you know, like, where I could improve on. But I'm sure you've seen it just as how your barbershops have grown. The more successful you get, the harder it is to, you know, stay humble.
Yeah.
You know,
it's really hard. Like, and I think it's easier if you're focused on your work, but it's really easy to try and, like, impress the Joneses, right? Or it's really easy to try and put a facade on. Like, I know for a fact I don't know as much about mortgages as you, but because I'm successful, I could be like, yeah, right? And it's like, what's weird for me is I don't even feel successful yet. Like, I'm not there yet. Well, what do you mean? Well, I'm just not. I don't know.
Yeah, same.
Right? Like, well, but you are. And it's like, because, like, people tell me I'm successful, and I'm like, I don't see it that way. And they're like, why? I'm like, Boeing is successful. Like, they make a ton of money, and their planes fly, right? Like, I'm not building airplanes. Like, so it's cool to see the perspectives in different people, and, like, how if you stay humble, you can actually meet more cooler people, you know?
Right.
Like, I'm not trying to be the cocky guy. I'd rather, like, I feel like I learned a lot from you today, you know?
Yeah.
And so there's no point where someone doesn't know better than you, unless there's exceptions, right? People can be, like, out of pocket. But when it comes to, like, the journey of life, I feel like the more successful you are is the more friends you have. I don't think it has anything to do with money. Like, the more people that you can get along with and, like, have a community of, like, people who care about you and care about each other is what actually builds success. And that's why, like, I like called it Savant, because Savant's a learned scholar or a distinguished scientist.
Oh, cool.
So, like, I'm like, okay, so all of us are savants. Like, now that you've been on the podcast, you're officially a savant. Because why? You're a learned scholar and a distinguished scientist, and you shared it with the world, right? Because you're well-traveled, right? And you've taught yourself something. So you're a scholar.
Good point, yeah.
Like, you might not think of yourself that way right now, but, like, in my book, I'd consider you a scholar, no matter your age.
Right.
Because you've lived multiple lives in different ways. You've taught yourself a skill that's universal. Mortgages are universal. The laws aren't, but the ideology of that skill is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you might have to learn a different way to do it, but you know how to do it.
Exactly.
And so that's what's important for me, is, like, building a group of savants that, like, we can all be friends, we can all spitball ideas, and we can all help more people. Because the last guy that was on, he actually had, like, he's like a nonprofit guy. His name's Michael, but so he runs nonprofits, and his whole dream is, like, cinematography and videography and nonprofits. And it's like, to me, that's really cool because it's like completely different. And then for you with mortgages, you're like, I like how you use the word helped. I helped families because like you can tell your intention by the way you're speaking. I sold 10 families. I helped 10 families because you did your best job.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge part of like what I'm trying to build here is like a group of people who believe in themselves and believe that they can achieve great things. So
no, shoot, man, that's so cool. That whole thing was a bar. That you know, did I ever tell you what Kai means? Like why I named it Kai?
No, why did you name it Kai?
Kai. So Kai is another word in it has another meaning in Mandarin Chinese that means victory, right? But more specifically, it doesn't just mean like victory of one person. It means like everyone winning together. It means victory of a village, victory of a collective. That everyone, the community, the clients, the partners, like we're kind of like savants. We're here winning together. We're on this path together to victory. So that's why I named it Kai.
That's cool.
That's how, you know.
You might want to go with Kai if you're looking for a mortgage because it sounds like he actually cares. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, we do. You do, you know? Yeah.
Good.
And that's what we're all about, you know? And that's why our slogan is the team that puts you first.
Okay.
You know? Like it's like on all our logo, you know? Because my whole business philosophy has always been treat each client like it's our first. Because I remember like my first client, like, shoot.
You went above and beyond.
Oh yeah, like, hey, I want to talk to you every day. Like, how's it going? You know, how's it going? You know, how's the mortgage? You know, any feedback? You know, you want to learn everything about it. You know, so the whole goal is like, hey, if the whole team is putting the client first, like it's like we're treating like it's our first client. You know,
you're always going to win that way.
Yeah,
because it's about building community. If you build a strong community, you always win. It's real.
Right.
No matter what industry you're in, no matter. Like, so that's cool. I really like that name. That's crazy. So it's like, you chose a word that's close to your heart because of where you're from. Yeah. And actually has a dope meaning. So that's sick.
Yeah.
I like that.
It took me a while to think of it. You know, I thinking of a name, like I'm sure it took you a little bit to think of Savant, right? Or, you know, because you want something that's impactful and something that's going to last, you know?
Yeah.
Like I wasn't going to do like 1, 2, 3 mortgages.
Yeah. Put me at the front of the phone book.
1, 2, 3 mortgages. Yeah.
Well, and it's hard because names and words have a lot of meaning. Like the meaning behind everybody's collective consciousness of a word will give it power. Like no matter what anybody thinks, like if someone thinks a certain way about a word, and everybody else thinks different, the word has a different power, right? And so that's why it's cool to hear, like, why you named it that way.
Yeah, and I think kind of how you explain Savant, I can already vision, like, you bring another employee or another person in, right? You tell them what Savant means, or you tell them, hey, what the company represents, you know, or me hiring someone, I'm telling them, hey, what do we represent, you know, as like a core value of the company. Yeah. Then that goes longer than, you know, than anything else.
Yeah, because you're building the foundation of what your values are.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Took me a long time to like think of that like it was like Sunday. I spent like 5 hours just like
writing all these names down.
Yeah, writing all these names, and it just ended up being pretty perfect, you know, because Kai Mortgage wasn't taken anywhere.
You're like, sweet, we can get it.
Yeah. $1 on GoDaddy, you know, you know, or whatever. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's your website?
Yeah, so the company, everyone can, you know, you can look up kaimortgage.com. You know, we're all over. And then me, I post everything. I'm just real Andy Zhao. Real Andy Zhao everywhere. I'm real Andy Zhao.
Perfect. How do you spell Andy Zhao?
So Andy is just ANDY, And then my last name is Z as in zebra, Hao.
Perfect. And so if anybody wants to find you, they can find you on Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, except YouTube, actually.
Except YouTube right now, unless you can find his old YouTube channel.
Yeah, yeah. I'll give you $10.
$10 to the winner.
Yeah.
Cool. And really, thank you. And hopefully, we can like collaborate more in the future and do some events for the communities. And I'll even try and dish you some clients one of these days.
Yeah, I'll be honored.
Sweet. And it's really been a pleasure, and thank you for letting me hear your story.
Yeah, been absolutely so amazing to be on here, and I'm kind of excited to see where this goes. You know, maybe like in another 2 years I come back, and then we see kind of where this whole podcast is.
Absolutely. I'd love to have you back because you're in the thick of a really fun journey right now. So I'm selfishly, everybody, I definitely want to hear how your journey keeps going.
And I want to be back. Maybe next time I'll be interviewing you.
Sick.
Maybe by then I'll have a podcast.
Hey, tell him.
Kai Talks.
Yeah, Kai Talks. Hey, in the comments below, let us know if that's a good podcast idea. Sweet. Well, thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you all soon. Peace.